Hey guys, Justin here with JHart Modelworks, coming to you with update number 1 on the Tamiya Porsche Boxster that I'm doing for the Scale Model Podcast's second annual Porsche group build. We've got a lot done on this kit. I say we're probably about halfway finished with it. Let's go ahead and get the camera turned around and take a look at where we're at. Alright guys, so the body prep is done on the Porsche Boxster. I'm about to put her into primer, but before I did, I wanted to go over a couple of things because there's some things that I've noticed while I was doing the prep work. The first thing are these panel lines. Now they don't go all the way through to the door panel. I thought Tamiya had maybe missed something and maybe they just didn't go all the way through. But when I went and researched the 986, because that's what this is, it's a 1997 model 986, and this is actually just a beauty line indented into the body panel. This is not a separate panel, so this does not actually go all the way through. This whole rear quarter, all the way down through the rocker, is all one part on the body. There's similarly another one of these on the rear end. These lines on the rear end do the same thing. See, they don't go all the way through. They stop right at that edge. Again, this is not a separate panel. It's just an indent in the actual body line. Now, I did go ahead and rescribe these lines just to make sure they didn't fill up when I put in, primer and paint and clear, so they would still be there. But you don't want to go through and rescribe them all the way through. Another thing I noticed is on top of the windshield frame, there are some panel lines here and here. These are not panel lines on the real car. So when I went and looked on Bring a Trailer, this is not a separate part. This is smooth all the way across. So I went ahead and took some CA glue and filled in the little panel line, hit it with some activator, let it sit for a few minutes, and then came in and very carefully sanded it smooth. While I was sanding, I made sure I had my thumb underneath the frame so that when I was pushing on it, I wasn't just putting that weight on the frame itself. And I was able to carefully go in and clean that up. So now when I go ahead and primer and paint this, this will look like one piece like it should be. Another thing that I did is I went in and there's a raised section where the shield is for the decal for the Porsche logo. I'm going to be using a 3D raised decal that I have from ages back. I've got a set that contains Porsche, Lamborghini, and Ferrari raised emblems. So I went ahead and I sanded this mostly flat. I left a slight bit of an indent, which will help me locate it when I go to put it on, but for the most part, this is almost flat. These vents on the side, a lot of guys just paint these black and glue them in from the inside. But when I was on Bring a Trailer looking around, all the cars I looked at, these are actually body color with the exception of the slats themselves. So what I did was I took some masking tape on the opposite vent here on the inside and I made a mask. I then brought it across and trimmed it up and made sure that it would fit. So I have a mask for each side that just covers the slats. So I'm going to do this whole thing in black Mr. Surfacer, come back in and cover over these grills. I'm going to do the same thing on these front grills for over here. Mask them off, and then I'll spray everything in body color. And then when I come back and remove these, I'll have that nice semi-gloss black on the slats. Alright guys, I don't know what happened. There should have been some footage here. There is no footage here. There should have been some footage coming right out of the spray booth after the 2K clear. I hit record. It should have been recording, but there's no footage here. So we're just going to talk about what happened. Mr. Hobby, Mr. Surfacer 1500 Black is the primer I always use. It went down absolutely perfect. It did exactly what I wanted it to do. We then used some splash paints, Porsche Amethyst Purple Pearl. Absolutely beautiful color. It went down absolutely perfect. Just flawless, beautiful. After that, I followed up. I did the Boxster script on the back. I used some Scale 75 Metal and Alchemy's Elven Gold. Now, this is not as nice a gold as what I wanted to use. What I would like to have used was the same gold that went on the wheels, and that was Mr. Hobby Super Metallic Super Rich Gold. This is still pretty close, and it still looks really nice, and it's close enough to the wheels that I am good with it. Took a mechanical pencil eraser, dipped it into the paint. It's a water-based acrylic, kind of like Vallejo, but a lot nicer than Vallejo's gold, because Vallejo's gold is absolute trash. Then just kind of tapped off any excess, and then took that rubber pencil eraser and just stamped those Boxster letters. Absolutely great. We then sprayed the 2K clear coat. And this is where things start going a little south. This is not the fault of the 2K clear coat. So I used a spray gunner, no name 2K clear. This is a clear that I've used before. I cut it with Mr. Leveling Thinner. I do that all the time. I like the Mr. Leveling Thinner in this 2K better than I like their own reducer, because with as hot as it is, their reducer kind of cures a little fast and I get some orange peel. The Mr. Leveling Thinner acts as a slow reducer and it gives it more time to level out. Started spraying, and somewhere around the middle of the driver's side door panel, the airbrush started to spit and sputter. And it shot a couple of really bad kind of globs into the driver's side door. Nothing really you can do about it. Just go ahead and finish off the clear coat, and we'll sand and polish it out as best as we can. That one's salvageable. There's a few dust nibs in it that are pretty significant dust nibs. Did 2 coats of the clear coat, and that second coat was just like nice and smooth, with the exception of the dust nibs and that spot in the driver's side door. I got the front and the rear clips cleared up as well. They looked fine. I put everything in the cat. I use a cat scratching pad to hold the little metal paint sticks. And I had the front clip pointing up and down. The 2K, gravity is a thing, and the 2K clear coat, I put it on way too heavy. I got the front clip way too wet. I was way too heavy-handed. It was not the clear coat, it was this guy. So I did end up with a sag on one of the corners, or a run. It looks like there's just a teardrop of clear on that very bottom corner. The plan is to sand and polish this out. Now, my record sanding and polishing out a run that is right on an edge is like 1 in 20, and yeah, it's now 1 in 21. It did not actually happen. I sanded through the edge, which is what almost always happens when I have a run that's right on the edge. I got through the clear and went straight to the plastic. So we did strip it, we repainted it, and that came out much better. And we're gonna go ahead and take a look at where we have ended up for the week. All right, guys, here we are at the end of the week. Our body is completely painted. We are wet sanded and polished. I did not go crazy on this one back here. I did sand it out. I got it fairly smooth. You can still see it in there, but I do not want to push it and completely sand and polish for a third time. I'm also worried about going through and getting the Boxster script in there. I did get this up here pretty well. You can still kind of see a little bit there, but again, I don't right near an edge. I just do not want to burn through an edge. I do not have enough paint to repaint this again. On this side, I did get those fairly smooth. I did go through, and this was sanded and polished out like 3 times. I don't want to push it and go for a 4th. We have our black trim has been done. So we've got our mud flaps are painted out. All of our trim is done through here. all the window trim. I've gone in and done our sun visors in the tan that I'm going to be using, which is actually a Ferrari color. That's right, the Ferrari guy has invaded the Porsche group build. But those came out really good on the sun visors. I have my raised 3D emblem in here on the front end. Now on the rear, I did not use the kit decal. I did not like the kit decal. What I did was I took a piece of, I used the kit decal as a template, and I made a masking tape template over that decal, and then I went in and I cut a piece of clear sheet acetate and I painted the acetate red, got all my clear red in there, and then put some silver back behind it, so that when I glued it in, we now have a brake light for the center brake light. And that looks so much more realistic than that just red strip on the decal sheet. We've also painted up our taillight sections in here. The actual taillight lenses will sit on top of this, and that bright silver is going to make those taillights just pop really well. The front end, we did not save the front end where we had that run. I sanded, and I, of course, absolutely went straight through the edges on this edge. It went straight through the clear coat, straight through the paint, all the way down to the bare plastic. And so I stripped it in 91% isopropyl alcohol, and I repainted it, and I re-cleared it. And this time I didn't ham fist the clear coat, so I didn't get it run. You know, the back end still looks beautiful. We also have our chassis and suspension done up. All of those turned out really nice. I did take some liberties with some colors, or sway bars are in yellow, things like that. Now this is actually stainless steel on the exhaust. I then went in with some Alclad exhaust manifold and sprayed that over it and got just a beautiful color on here. And then after that, I went and just did some flat clear over it. But yeah, that exhaust looks fantastic. It's a shame we don't have an engine that we can see, but that's okay. For our wheels, I have 3D printed up some HRE. I believe these are 111s. Now these are a two-piece wheel. They come with the barrels and they come with separate centers, which makes them super easy to paint. And that came out fantastic, but they are not super easy to print. They are originally scaled, I believe, at like 1/10 scale, maybe 1/8. And you have to scale them down. And those little prongs don't like to print on the very tip, and they like to break off. So you have to be really careful with them. Supporting them is an activity in creative supporting. But we did get them done, and they look fantastic. For our brakes, I just did a bright silver, and I went in with Mr. Hobby's clear violet. And those are going to give me some purple brakes. I was trying to figure out what color I wanted to do the brakes in. I could do black, they would disappear. Gunmetal would pretty much disappear. Gold would blend in with the wheel centers. Yellow would look really bad with the gold wheels. I mean, it was just like red doesn't go with anything on the car. It was just kind of troubling me, and then I was like, you know what, let's try for some purple. And I think that that is still dark enough that it looks pretty good with that body. Alright guys, so that is going to be a wrap on update number 1 for the Tamiya Porsche Boxster that we're building as part of the Porsche group build hosted by the guys from the Scale Model Car podcast channel. I'm going to put links for all 4 of those guys down in that description below. A quick thank you to Matt from the Luka Cee channel, BG from BG Scale Models, Chuck from Chuck's Hobby Spots, and Jason from Blue Ox Models for hosting this. It is a lot of fun. I'm having a blast with this little build. If I were to push really hard, I could probably have this thing wrapped up this weekend. We're about halfway done with it. All that's left is the interior and final assembly. but I'm not going to. What I am going to do is start working on the footage for the paint video for the 69 Mustang Resto Mod build series. Next week's video is going to be the paint video on that. I am super excited to get that video out as well. That paint went down absolutely flawless. It's scale finishes paint. I never have an issue with it at all. It's absolutely gorgeous. Thanks for hanging out with me, guys. I'm going to go ahead and get started on editing that. I appreciate every last one of you that watches my videos. I know I say it every time, but I really do appreciate all of you, especially when you comment and interact with me in this chat section down below. I really do enjoy interacting with you guys. So thanks for hanging out with me, and I'm going to catch you guys on the next one.